Join me today as we talk about a movie from the 90s, Class of 1999. This is the Geek Cabal channel. My name is Bobby, and today we're going to be talking about a movie from the 90s, Class of 1999. Now, I'm willing to bet that most people watching this movie have not actually seen this. Watching this video have not seen this movie. And I noticed it was on Amazon Prime the other night and decided to watch it. I have seen it before. For some context, the last time I watched this movie, it still took place in the future. So, in other words, somewhere between 2 and 3 decades ago. Now, I don't have like super fond memories of this movie. I do remember watching it. I vividly remember certain scenes. But I don't remember like, oh man, I'm just dying to watch this movie again. So, and my rewatch confirms that, it wasn't a great movie. Now, to get to the plot and the whole reason we're going to talk about this movie, because I watch a lot of movies, in case you can't tell from the other videos, this is a sci-fi, sci-fi movie. Yeah, it's a sci-fi movie. And it was released in 1990. And the premise behind the movie is that by 1999, in several major cities, crime, particularly youth gang violence, is just running rampant. And so around a lot of the schools are essentially just no-go zones. The cops won't go in there. Gangs and drugs and violence all over the place. And so the Department of Educational Defense, the DED, proposes to take combat robots, and think the Terminator. They look human, but it's a robot underneath. Reprogram them, not disarm them with their internal weapon systems, but just reprogram them. And when I say reprogram, I mean put the teaching program in with the warfighting programming. You can probably see how this is all just going to go horribly wrong. And put them into schools as teachers. So, the school in Seattle is selected as the test project. And this is where we meet our handful of actual stars you probably recognize from elsewhere. We have Malcolm McDowell as the principal, and from what I read online, he filmed all of his scenes in 2 days. It's pretty impressive. Initially I didn't recognize him. I thought that's Malcolm McDowell, but he sounds a little more typical American here. Doesn't have the accent he usually has. Then Stacy Keach is the albino scientist slash salesman behind all this. And no idea why he's an albino. Just made his character stand out, I guess. That was one of the things I remember from watching it way back when. And then Pam Grier is one of the teachers, the chemistry teacher. And then I do recognize the other two teachers from other roles, but they are lesser known actors, and I don't know their names off the top of my head. And I did recognize one of the gang members. I've only ever seen him in one other movie that I know of, and he played the preteen, probably preteen vampire in Near Dark. So I looked up his IMDb stuff. He is in other things later on. He's a writer too, also. But those are the only 2 movies that I know I've seen him in. But anyway, so our main character has been released from prison on the condition that he goes to school, and he's had some things happen in prison where he's like, I think I'm done with the gang stuff here. Meanwhile, the kid I just mentioned is his younger brother, I believe, and he's about to be initiated into the gang. And then, of course, there's their rivals. Now, this being a movie from 1990, we were still in over the top 80s action movies. In fact, this movie was made by the man who made Commando, which you've probably heard Jim and I talk about that movie a lot. That we definitely consider that Arnold's most ludicrous, over the top action movie, just because it's just beyond silly at the end. It's entertaining as hell, but it is not a serious movie by any stretch of the imagination. And you have the same thing here. So you have these gangs of teenagers, all of whom have like fully automatic weapons. Some of them have grenade launchers. One of them has a rocket launcher at the end of the movie. Who knows where the hell they're getting any of this stuff? They even have like a battle at one point between two of the gangs where, I mean, bullets are just flying everywhere. Although I think the teachers kill more of the kids than the kids kill each other. So, yeah. And to give you an idea of like how ludicrous just the whole setup to this movie is, the schools are surrounded by like fortifications that look like prisons. There's private security there and everything. And whenever they go there, no automatic weapons are allowed, but you see them like checking in weapons and getting a ticket to get the weapon back at the end of the day, like firearms. And so, yeah, it's parts of it are preposterous. Other parts, like, not so much. Now, it was like close enough in the future that they didn't have to make anything look futuristic. It's only, it's 9 years in the future. You could use the same cars you had at that point in time, same clothing styles and everything. So that was probably a smart move. Plus, if you're going to go for because this is kind of like it's not a sequel to Class of 1984, which I'm going to tell you I've never seen. Although I believe the director is the same director there too. But similar concept, gangs overrunning schools, things like that. And so if you're going to go for a future year from 1990, 1999, 2000, those are the two that you would go. Those are the ones that just kind of roll off the tongue, or like 2099. But 2099 is 100 years in the future. You have to make things look different. It's going to expand the budget. This, by filming in Seattle, or at least it says it's Seattle, it might not be. You only really have a couple set pieces, and it keeps the budget down. Most of your actors are lesser knowns. I mean, yeah, I know who Stacy Keach is, and he's got a name. Malcolm McDowell does, but this is like 1990. These people were not exactly commanding high salaries. Pam Grier, this is pre-Jackie Brown, so she's past her, her 70s heyday. And so, yeah, I mean, you were able to get away with a pretty low budget in this thing. But even having said that, the robotics actually look pretty good. With one or two exceptions, like once I think it's the gym teacher goes full like Terminator mode, where like part of his face is missing, and it's obviously like an animatronic thing. But even there, I suppose it could actually be an homage to in the end of the first Terminator movie, when the Terminator's chasing them down the hallway in the Cyberdyne building. Which, yes, it is a Cyberdyne building if you've never seen the deleted scene. So that's clearly like a model coming after them with like the herky-jerky motions and everything in the stop motion. I doubt it's an homage to that, but it could be. But no, the action's pretty solid in this movie, if ludicrous. The dialogue could definitely use a lot of work. But no, I mean, part of the premise, it's absurd, but we have police forces that have all kinds of military hardware, like more so now than we did in 1990. So the idea of using that in the school system, I mean, I'd like to believe it's absurd, but who knows? Now, the idea that we would have human-looking and acting robots with skin and everything 9 years in the future from 1990, that part's preposterous. They do comment at one point about how much like memory they have. One of the robots says it has a million megabytes, which, unless I'm mistaken, is a terabyte. So, I don't know if that's enough to house an AI, but these were a little more simplistic, and they do have people kind of monitoring them. And one of them even mentioned that there's a state that they basically can't exist in, which is basically to mimic humans perfectly. That they can only get so close, but they become unstable. And well, they become pretty damn unstable. They kill a couple of the students, like pretty near the beginning of the movie, and then eventually they kill they initiate the gang war by taking people out and making it look like the other side's doing it. And then eventually one of the kids realizes, hey, this is definitely the robots are doing this, and convinces the other guy, and they go in together and try to take them all out, and they succeed. But most of both the gangs get wiped out. However, if you do happen to watch this movie, which I'd say it's about 50-50 as whether or not you should. If you want preposterous action, not so great dialogue, and I don't mean like cheesy like Arnold and Commando, I mean just like kind of bad dialogue. And some definite overacting in the melodrama, but decent kill scenes. If that's what you're going for, this is your movie. But there was one thing that kept bothering me throughout the whole damn movie. Like, they're in a no-go zone. The cops won't go there. The main character, we know he's going to school because supposedly he's out on prison, like kind of parole, kind of to do this. I could not for the life of me figure out why any of the other kids are actually going to this school. Like, they established pretty early on that the teachers killed 2 of the students. And at least one of the students, like, knows this and is telling people. So, plus they know for a fact one of them, the gym teacher broke someone's neck. Like, they know that happened. So, if you're a heavily armed gang member, why the hell are you bothering with any of this? Like, there's just, like, the one thing that just, like, really stuck out is just, like, there was no good answer to that question. And I kind of feel like maybe there was an answer buried somewhere, because we know the main guy just got out of prison. Unless all of the gang members just got out of prison, which is definitely not the indication, because there's a whole lot of, hey, I just got out of prison, you guys don't know what it's like. So, yeah, it was just bizarre that, you would think the easiest solution to all this is just don't go, because the cops aren't going to come and enforce anything. So, and I mean, even the guy not going to school, like, he lives in a no-go zone. The cops aren't going to come and arrest him. So, yeah, that part, no good answer there. I don't think there is one. But other than that, I mean, it's a silly, over-the-top action movie. Overall, I'd probably rate it like a 5, maybe 5.5. Like I said, some scenes stuck out to me. Definitely not in any rush to watch it again anytime soon. But yeah, unlike another movie that I'm going to talk about in another video in the very near future, that I rewatched for the first time in like 3 decades, and that movie was still pretty good. So, well, I mean, relatively speaking. So anyway, if you want to watch a movie about cyborg teachers killing students, trying to bring some type of law enforcement in line that supposedly took place 2.5 decades ago, this is your movie. There is a sequel to this movie. I've rewatched it recently. I distinctly remember it being very not as good as the original, which the original isn't all that great to begin with. So if you do happen to see it, it is out there. It does exist. I know it definitely tied into the first movie somehow, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. So anyway, that's it for random movies that I watched on streaming recently. Definitely gonna be another episode of this soon. Maybe real soon. I'm probably actually gonna record it right after this, but we'll just see where it slots in the video release stuff here. But definitely keep an eye out for that one. It's, for, in my opinion, a much better sci-fi movie from the 90s. So anyway, let me know if you guys have actually seen this movie, if you have any interest based on my description of watching it. Does it sound preposterous? Anything like that. Again, at the moment I'm recording this, it's on Amazon Prime, because I've noticed that Amazon Prime seems to have, like, if there was a digital version of like a late 90s video store that had like all those movies from the 80s and 90s with weird covers that you're like, what is this movie about? This cover looks great, but the movie's probably trash. Like, a lot of that has wound up on Amazon Prime. Like, not Netflix, not elsewhere. A lot of it's on Prime. And so I'm clearing the back catalog of, hey, I remember seeing that movie in the video store but never renting it. So, anyway, look out for some more of these videos in the near future. We'll space them out depending on when I watch them and if anything's worth talking about. So, yeah, that's about it. And other than that, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But see you folks later.